In this video, I want to share with you why I think that you should not use a closed source coding agent CLI or sometimes even a open source one that is built with a particular model in mind, usually by a particular company. Good examples here are Codex and the Gemini CLI. Even though those are open source, I still think that you should use a open source coding agent CLI that doesn't really cater to one particular model or to one particular company. Good examples of these are OpenCode and the Pi coding agent CLI. Now, the reasons for doing this might not be clear, so I want to go over those reasons. First of all, is that you are usually locked into using everything related to a particular company when you are using their coding agent CLI. In the case of Cloud Code, if you want to use Cloud Code, you are locked into Anthropic, you are locked into using their models. And even if you are able to, for example, do some kind of proxy to be able to use other kinds of models, the coding agent is never really going to interact very well with it because we don't have access to the code directly. We don't really understand what's happening under the hood. So it ends up being not such a great experience, to be honest. There are people that were able to, for example, integrate the GLM coding plan with Cloud Code, but I don't really, again, see a point to doing that. Instead, I think that we should keep in mind that when using a coding agent CLI that is open source and that is not tied to a particular company, we have the freedom to explore different kinds of models and we are not tied into one particular company. There are many reasons for us wanting to do this. First of all, we're able to shop around and jump from one model to another. So let's say that next month OpenAI decides to release a new Codex model. In that case, you can try it out, play with it inside of your coding agent CLI without having to worry about compatibility issues or other kinds of like silly things that usually happen when you are tied into one particular CLI and when that CLI is closed source. Then we also have the fact that some companies can simply block access to what you're doing. A good example is what happened with OpenCode. Now I know that technically Anthropic says that it is against their terms of service. I'm not really sure. I cannot really speak about that, but what I can tell you is that if Anthropic decides to start enforcing a existing clause in their terms of conditions or they interpret it in another way, in those cases, then it becomes very clear that you don't have anywhere else to go. So it is very important for you to have this freedom to be able to jump from one model to another so that a company, and I'm giving here the example of Anthropic, but OpenAI could do something very similar at any moment. So it is important to be able to jump around. So we have both of these reasons. First of all, the quality of the models themselves, you can shop around, and then not being like at the mercy of one particular company, like what happened with a lot of people that relied on their workflow being the subscription to Claude Max and using it with OpenCode. As you can see, I'm currently using the Pi coding agent CLI, and I think it is great. One of those reasons is because I can use multiple models. At the moment, I'm trying out and playing a lot more with the Gemini 3 Pro models, the Flash one as well. For just the last couple of weeks, I was playing a lot with Codex. It is still the model that I'm using mostly for the work that I do, but I want to explore these things because to make content and to be able to find new ways of doing things and find new workflows in general. And I'm able to do this very easily because I can just connect with a API key to, for example, like OpenCode Zen to try out like their offerings. I can connect to Open Router. I can connect to Gemini. I can connect with Codex since they allow the OAuth integration. I can connect even to GLM, which is a model that I am thinking of also exploring more, the 4.7 release. So as you can see, I have this freedom to be able to explore different models and arrive at a point where I see, okay, this model is less expensive, not doesn't have as much quality, but at the same time, I might want it to use it for a particular reason, a particular set of prompts that I need or part of my workflow that I work with. So I'm even thinking, like I told you, GLM 4.7 might fit very well into a workflow where we give it very particular like prompts and things to do, and it doesn't really need to make a lot of decisions or think a lot. It's just like crunching out code or stuff inside of a code base. And all of this is not simply just not possible with closed source coding agent CLIs in general. And even if it is possible, like technically, it's just not the same kind of experience at all. If you want to learn more about using AI agents for software engineering, go to techwithtouris.com/AI. I'll be releasing a live training class next month on how to do AI driven development. If you're a vibe coder, this is not for you. Instead, it's all about building systems and code bases that help you scale AI agents for software engineering. We'll focus on how to plan, execute, and verify, and how this loop creates an environment that leads to AI agents writing code and features exactly how you want, instead of just hoping for the best. Again, go to techwithtouris.com/AI to save your spot for next month. I also remember having used the Factory CLI, which is a company that like offers a CLI, and then they also offer like a subscription to be able to consume a certain number of tokens. And I remember using their CLI a while ago and kind of doing like a proxy to be able to proxy Codex into their CLI. At the time, I think that Codex didn't like come out yet and say that we were able to use their OAuth with that. So there were a lot of hacks to be able to implement that. There was basically like a proxy in between, and the experience was just terrible. For example, compared with the experience that I get now with using Codex, the GPT 5.2 Codex models here with Pi or even with OpenCode, the experience, because it is like first party, because it is like a first party citizen of the tool itself, it means that the quality is just much higher. So we don't get all of these headaches of not having like this setup and being able to like extract the maximum value that we can from these models. And now that I covered these points about the models themselves, I think like we can put this into a category of the models, even if we're talking about a certain company being able to like change their terms or start enforcing terms that already existed. In both those cases, it is all about the model and not necessarily like the coding agent CLI. But I think that is a point that is usually not made a lot, which is the ability to actually build your own tools and to own your own tools and see what's happening and like extend the tools that you have. So as you can see here, like I said, I'm giving a try and seeing how Gemini 3 Pro works, and I was creating here a set of skills. So I have a skill that it is kind of like a meta, but a skill that creates skills, and I wanted to see how well it like followed instructions. I just now realized that it actually skipped a couple of steps, but my point here is that I was able to create, if you go also watch the previous videos that I released, I created here a couple of extensions and skills. So I'm going to just do this and run here Pi. So we have here the to-do list. As you can see, it stays here even after we restart. It basically gets written to a file, and then I have here a bunch of different skills. We can skip over this because usually that's something that exists everywhere. I have here Exa Search, Review Mode, Tmux Tools, To Do Right, and Using Skills. So Tmux Tools essentially allows me to do something like Tmux Run, and then I can say here, Pi, hello, how can you help me? And now this is going to start. Now I can say here, Tmux List, and I have this one. I can even jump here and say Tmux Attach, and this is actually not the one. Okay, yeah, I think actually that this is the one that we wanted. I just cannot scroll back for some reason, which I'm not really sure why. But yeah, basically this started a new like Pi instance here, and it responded to my like question, which was how can you help me? And it told me this here. I can invoke here Tmux by saying that, or I also have the ability to do the exact same thing, but from so if we jump here into the Tmux tools, as you can see, we can use here the commands and also these tools which are invocable by the agents themselves. So I've built all of this as a first class citizen using extensions with the Pi coding agent CLI, and I didn't even need to like do any kind of hacks. I didn't need to do any kind of workarounds, do things that might or might not. Again, I'm not saying that some of these things break or does not break the terms of services of different like companies like Anthropic or OpenAI. That's beside the point. But the fact is that if Claude Code is closed source, and even if you're able to which I'm not saying you should do, but even if you're able to like reverse engineer it to build some kind of tool into it, it's just going to be too much work for the same thing that you could do with these kinds of tools, which are open source. So like I was saying, we have here tmux, and now I can say here tmux watch, and this is going to show me here the output, and it is going to also cut here this. I'm going to do this, and now I can see the entire history here. So how to use me, hello, how can you help me? I can help you with a wide range. How to use me, okay, yeah. So basically this is it. I think that we have some kind of problem here with the rendering, but you get the point. I'm able to build all of these tools by myself with the help of the AI. I can code them manually, but I don't have to rely on like a company wanting to build these things and saying, okay, we're going to build them. Even recently, I saw that Cloud Code released their new skills, like the ability to have different, not skills, to-do lists. They released the ability to have to-do lists that have different blockers, and I was able to build that into my tool here pretty easily. So if I show you here really quickly, I don't really think, I think I lost here the history itself. So if I do maybe a new and then I resume, okay, yeah. So now we have this one, and as you can see, we have here the to-dos, and I want to find, okay, so as you can see here, these are blocked. In this case, they are all like sequential tasks, or there's not really like blocking happening between multiple tasks. I could even add here something like what Cloud Code has, like this is being blocked by task X or Y or Z. So all of this is able to like be built into this CLI without, again, me having to do backflips and just do a bunch of things just to get around the fact that the CLI itself is not open source. And besides this, I also want to show you something really fun and nice. So if I say here pi and I say profile empty, this didn't load any kind of skills or extensions. Now, one thing, if you use the pi coding agent CLI, that you might be thinking is that this is not a functionality that is actually built into it. And you'd be right, because I decided to add here a new feature with the help of GPT 5.2 codex, where I wrote my own like implementation of profiles. This means that I have inside of my agent directory here a bunch of different extensions, and I have also a bunch of different skills, which is, I think, the most important thing that I really want to like separate. So I have remotion best practices, and then I have all of these. So the reason for this is because I wanted to, so I'm going to show you here settings. I wanted to be able to separate things between my marketing extensions. This, like the term here that I chose was marketing. Maybe content would be a better name for it, but essentially skills and extensions that I want to start creating only for content creation. So remotion best practices, I started like playing around with using a skill to interact with remotion and create like slides, essentially like animations. And then I have the default one, and I also have an empty one to be able to, let's say that I have a set of skills and something breaks and I'm not really sure which one it is. I could go ahead, obviously, and just say here pi, no extension, no skills, but I want to have like this separation where I just say, okay, in this case, I'm working on something like marketing. So I just say here profile marketing, and now I get only this skill. This is loaded here by the pi mono repo itself, but I only have this skill. And if I instead do here default, which is what I wanted to say, I get all of them. So I get these ones. I also get the ones from this project. I maybe could even integrate something that also like grabs the one from the project itself, which is now that I take a look at it, a good idea, but you get the point. I can also toggle here, so I have the ability to disable to-dos. So one thing, usually I don't really think there's a way inside of like Claude to disable to-dos altogether. So all of these things are great, and the ability to like play around with this tool and try to build things for it, try to build things that like matter to me inside my workflow is only possible because this is open source. So this is the only reason. And I would also add to it what I said at the beginning of the video, that since this is not being built by a particular company, it also like tries to cater to different kinds of models, tries to like build things thinking about different, like the fact that people use different models, different subscriptions or APIs or whatnot, instead of just focusing on one model, which like what I'm referring to here is Codex. Obviously, the Codex CLI is great by itself. I've used it a lot, and I think that the fact they made it open source is something to be like celebrated, of course. But I think that the fact they make it like the entire team built it around the Codex models, the GPT 5.2 and the other ones, the previous ones, it means that it ends up not working so well with other models because of like just the everything from the ground up that gets built with one model in mind usually doesn't really work that well with others. That is the case even with closed source CLIs and also here with the open source ones. So yeah, basically like what I want to say in this video is to try to convince you to give a try to open source CLIs that like have this openness to them. First, open code, which is in the name itself, and then the Pi coding agent CLI. I'm going to leave links in the description down below to both of them, and I like wanted to really encourage you to give them a try because like I said, I'm trying to find here a workflow that works really well for me, where I can not only use models to be productive, to like do things, but also to try obviously to like cut costs, see how much I can cut costs without losing productivity, still building the projects that I'm building and the things that like I'm working on, continue doing that, and trying to see, okay, if I can integrate GLM 4.7 into my workflow at particular points, then I'm able to cut like 10%, 20%, 30% of the tokens or the actions that I'm doing inside of the code bases. I can cut like that usage from a model like Codex. If I can get to like 50%, maybe I can like stop paying the higher plans, start paying only for like the lower plans, and or even move to an API. So like all of this is possible because of this. So I'm also trying Gemini to see if like it can be the main quote unquote model. So yeah, basically I think it is amazing for experimentation and for seeing like exactly what you need to do inside of your own workflows. So yeah, this is it. I'm going to wrap up this video here, and hopefully it was helpful to you, and I'll see you on the next one.